Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel for my Superman review. Superman 2025, that is. Oh my god, it's finally here. It's finally here, and we can finally talk about it. I didn't get to go to the fan screening the other day. I wanted to, the Amazon screening. I really wanted to, but if you haven't checked out my other channel, Star Wars Lads, I stream every Tuesday, so I could not go to that. But I did make it to the Thursday night showing, and I got to see James Gunn's new Superman, the new start to our DC universe, and I can't wait to talk about it here with you all. This will be a non-spoiler review. I'm going to film my spoiler review right after this, so I'll release that soon as well. But I just wanted to get my thoughts out there for all of you who maybe see this and are like, I guess I'll listen to him on why I should go see this movie. So as many of you probably know, but probably more of you don't know, I've been a lifelong DC fan. I rarely do movie reviews on this channel. It's something that I would be interested in doing. I'm a huge film fan. Like, I watch movies every day. But I have done 3 movie reviews in the past, and they have been all about DC properties. So I've been a lifelong DC fan. DC comics were the thing that got me into superheroes back in the day. Fell in love with them when I was about 4 years old. Fell in love with that Batman the animated series, Superman the animated series, Bruce Timm, Paul Dini era of DC animation, and then carrying into Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. And so I've been waiting a good long while to see Superman done on the big screen in this way. So I did just get out of seeing the film, like I saw it a few hours ago, and so it is all still pretty fresh in my mind, but I'm somebody who, especially when I'm emotionally invested and attached to something prior to having seen it, I always want these things to be good. I'm not a hater by any means, so I always want these things to be good. I'm looking forward to seeing this again this weekend so I can really give my full thoughts on it later down the line. Right off the bat, I would say I loved all the pieces of this movie. I thought Superman was phenomenal. David Corenswet did such a great job playing Superman. And this style is very, very much so a comic book. You've heard probably a million people say that, but this is a comic book come to life. This really is something that's steeped in that Silver Age style comics. And I dug that. I dug the way this film was crafted, and I dug the love that was poured into this movie. So off the bat, I did fall in love with David Corenswet as Superman. I think he plays a great Superman. He plays a very good Clark Kent in the moments we get to see him, although Clark is certainly not a big part of the story. This is very much so a Superman story. This movie's really about the humanity in Superman. How can we relate to this godlike figure? We've seen Zack Snyder and really a lot of creators in the last 20 years, comic creators and filmmakers, take Superman as this messianic figure, this person who's basically sent down from another planet, Christ-like in a lot of ways, to come to our world and save us from ourselves. And while Superman is that, he's not as dour as he often is in the Snyder stuff. I'm actually a fan of Man of Steel. I thought it was a good kind of Elseworlds version of Superman, and honestly, I like it more just watching it as a film by itself and not watching any of the other Zack Snyder stuff. So overall, I was kind of out on the DCEU, the Snyderverse, but I was in on Man of Steel. I thought it was a pretty good movie, despite the ending with Zod getting killed by Superman, but I did love the way he showcased Superman's speed and power and the way he filmed it, caught it all in camera, very nice wide, some great action. And I also did like seeing him grapple with the weight of being this savior figure. It was a nice Elseworlds tale, but this movie was far more in the Superman wheelhouse to me. Like, this is a type of movie that you can make sequels to. This is the type of movie that you can fall in love with, that general audiences can fall in love with and relate to this character. And that's really the mission statement of this movie, is how do you make this character relatable as Superman? He's relatable as Clark Kent, but how do you make him relatable as Superman? And so in doing so, you do kind of not really have any Clark Kent in this movie. You have a little bit of it at the beginning, but I was okay with that. I'm waiting to see more from David Corenswet, but this is as a really a capsule of Superman's life, as multiple days of Superman's life. I thought this was really, really well done. Rachel Brosnahan is fantastic as Lois Lane, lots of Margot Kidder vibes, and I thought their relationship worked really well. The way it grew and progressed, both of them had great chemistry, so that worked right off the bat. And then of course, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. A lot of people have been talking about him. I thought he was fantastic as well as Lex, probably the best live action portrayal of Lex Luthor. They made Lex Luthor intimidating while also making him kind of a pure villain, which worked very well. for this type of movie. The supporting characters, we were all kind of a little concerned. How many supporting characters are you going to have in this movie? They did just sprinkle enough. I thought it was really well balanced with Superman. Right off the bat, this film just throws you into the DC universe. Metahumans have existed for a while. They are populating this universe, and so it makes sense for a lot of them to appear. They could have gone the like MCU route and just made Superman like the origin point, the birth point of metahumans. I thought it made the universe and the world feel lived in. It made it feel like it was real and true to this version and this story. I also loved all the trappings around Superman. Krypto was awesome. I loved the Fortress of Solitude, the Superman robots. I loved Ma and Pa Kent. This is the most comic accurate Ma and Pa Kent we've seen. Seeing them as older, I think definitely fits the kind of cheesier vibe we get from them. They are older in the Christopher Reeve movie, the first movie as well, but they're not as much a part of that story. I mean, Jonathan's death in that original movie is a great piece of storytelling for that film. But I loved seeing them both here alive and participating actively in Clark's life. Loved Mr. Terrific, and I loved Guy Gardner. Both of them are great, and both of them have great lines. Nathan Fillion is perfect casting for Guy Gardner, and Mr. Terrific really does steal a few scenes that he's in. I would have liked to see a little bit more from Hawk Girl, but we'll get more from her in the future. My biggest character complaint would be a spoiler, so I'm going to save that for the spoiler review, but there was one thing in this film that I personally didn't love. I understood it, and I accepted it, and thought it actually works very well for the message and the story they're trying to send. I'm just kind of expecting it to be retconned and changed later to back more towards the comic version of it, especially with Supergirl coming out next. But let's get to the other criticism I have of the film, and that's definitely plot construction. Superman is a movie that feels very much so centered around a theme, an idea, a love, a passion, just all the things that make Superman Superman. And when you think back to the film when it was originally announced, it was called Superman Legacy, and James Gunn had said that his big inspiration was All-Star Superman. Now, obviously, for those of you who have read All-Star Superman, you knew it wasn't going to be one-to-one because of what happens at the end of that comic. So I was wondering what he really meant by that, and I think you see it really shine through in the film. The only negative with that is it's a 12-issue comic series and snapshots of Superman's life over 12 different days, and you kind of feel that in the film as well. It doesn't feel necessarily focused. It almost doesn't even feel like it has a true plot. It really just feels like Lex versus Superman in a battle of ideology, and everything else is happening around that battle. When James Gunn throws you right into the action at the beginning of the film, it really works in a Star Wars-esque way. You read the crawl, you skip all the BS and all the exposition and you jump right in. I like that, even though there were a few times where there was some clunky exposition, and I didn't like that. I'm a big clunky exposition guy. No. But there were only one or two times, and they were very much so right at the beginning of the film, so I thought that was kind of something you push aside later. It didn't linger throughout the whole movie, which was very fortunate, because I was getting a little nervous in that first 5 minutes. And because the film is so ideologically driven, there's not necessarily a point A to point B plot line that you follow in this film. If you're looking for the traditional superhero movie plot structure, you're going to be let down by that. But I found it kind of refreshing in a lot of ways. It's something that definitely on a second watch will crystallize more. And yes, really, it's hard to judge on second watch as well, because when you're still so excited and hyped about something like this, you find more in the positives than the negatives immediately. So really, ask me again in about 2 years when I've seen this movie 10 times. But it did make the film overall feel a little bit messy, a little bit hard to follow. Again, as a comic reader, I was able to pull all these strings together knowing what I know about these characters, but I have heard plenty of people say that it feels like it jumps around a lot, and I can definitely see that, because it is something that doesn't necessarily have an A, B, C plot structure. That would be my biggest criticism. It's something that I think the parts outweigh the whole. Like, if you look at each individual part, James Gunn nails almost all of them. It's really the combination of all of them together where it's not quite as strong. I still think this is a really interesting, worthwhile film, especially looking at the rest of the comic book movies we see nowadays. This one stands out. It's very uniquely structured, and it's very different, and I did like that and appreciate that. So overall, I did really like this movie. I'm not going to give it a score out of 5 yet. I just don't feel comfortable doing so after just one screening of it. But I would say if you're a fan of this character, if you're a fan of DC Comics, absolutely go check it out. It seems like everybody is loving this or really enjoying enjoying this, so I think you're going to have a good time watching it. I just hope it continues to settle in with me and stick around in my memory and stay with me for a long time, because off the bat, I really do feel like this is probably the second best Superman movie we've ever gotten. I still do think Christopher Reeve and Richard Donner's first Superman is the best Superman, but what did you guys think? Let me know what you thought of Superman in the comments below. Make sure you stay tuned for my spoiler review, because there are some spoiler things I want to talk about. Also, I don't really review movies that often, but if you want to see more of my thoughts on different blockbusters that release, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all next time.